How many deer have you killed in your hunting career? Do you remember the details of every one of them? Me either. In the last 23 years, I've taken a lot of deer, and over that much time, and after that many deer, the details of each hunt get a little fuzzy, which is why I decided to create these videos to share with you guys the stories behind each and every one of these deer that I've taken. And it's also why about 14 years ago, I started my own hunting album to share and relive the memories of each hunt with family and friends. Now, in each of these deer stories, I'm going to try to include every possible detail that I can possibly remember. And the goal with that is to help you guys maybe pick something out of each and every one of these stories that might help you put together your deer hunting puzzle this fall. Each story might include one story, or it might include two or three, depending on the details and the amount of information that I remember from each hunt. And if you guys want to create your own hunting album to share your memories and your hunts with family and friends, I'm going to link in the description below a couple of links for a couple different of my favorite hunting albums that are on the market today. So with all that said, guys, I hope you enjoy. Thanks for being here, and let's get into the story. Hey guys, welcome back to Whitetail Affinity. To kick off these deer hunting stories, I figured we might as well go all the way back and start right at the top with my very first deer, which was this little basket rack 7-point. I killed this deer on October 26, 2003. It was a Sunday, and if it's anything like your first deer, I remember almost every detail of the hunt. It was a Sunday afternoon. Some friends of ours were over. We were hanging out, and I wasn't even going to hunt that night. But as the sun started setting, it started getting cooler. I just had that feeling that I should get out there, so I did. I threw on my coveralls and grabbed my bow, and I headed out to the deer stand. I got out there a little late, little after 5, I think it was, and sitting there, nothing was happening. This deer came out right about 20 minutes before dark. I could just see his outline as he entered the field, and he was standing out there by himself. He was the only deer in the field. It was a bean field at that time, and I didn't know what to do to get this deer to come to me. Like I said, I was 14, I was young, I didn't really know a lot, and so I started grunting at this deer with my mouth. I didn't have a grunt call at the time, and I started grunting at him with my mouth, just making all kinds of random deer noises the best I could. And for some reason, this deer came over to me, and I was able to take a shot at him. He was out there. It took probably 10 minutes from the time I first saw him to the time that he actually made it over for me to get a shot. But I was grunting with my mouth, and I don't know why he came over, honestly. I know it had to have sounded just totally unlike any deer, but young deer, probably just stupid, curious what was going on over there. So he meandered across the field, came in, he got to the edge of the field. I'll take you to the whiteboard in a minute and show you the setup, but I was in the stand, and I turned and I drew my bow as there was a ditch between the trail and the tree that I was in, and then in the field, there was a ditch between there. He came over to the edge of that field and stopped at that ditch, and he stood there and he was looking around, and he was pretty much facing me straight on. And before he had gotten to that edge, I drew my bow, and I was sitting there with my bow drawn, and he's standing there looking straight at me. I had no shot, and a couple seconds later, he turned to go back into the field, I'm assuming. And when he turned, I put it right behind his shoulder and took the shot. Now, this deer was probably 10 yards from me, maybe 15, but the angle of how high the stand was to where he was standing was very, very steep. And I actually hit him right up through the top of the back strap behind the shoulder. And he took off running, barreled back across the field, went back into the woods. I collected my thoughts and got down. I was shaking. It was my first deer, 14 years old. And went up to the house, got my dad. We went back there a little bit after dark and went and found him. He didn't go far. He was probably 40, 50 yards out of the field into the woods. So it was a very cool hunt. I'll never forget it. As you can see, it's kind of messed up right now. Back when I was a younger kid, after I'd taken this deer, I was watching all these hunting shows, and I thought it wowould be, they all had these giant rattling antlers that they'd clash together, and I was really into watching all those videos back in the day. So I cut this skull cap in half, and I used these for rattling antlers. Looking back, I shouldn't have done that. It was kind of stupid at the time, but like I said, I was a young kid, didn't know any better. So this deer's actually a little wider than that, a regular basket rack Michigan 7-point. He's got some cool character. He's got this little pit in here that you can kind of see. It's almost like a hole. I don't know if you can see that, but cool deer. It was my first deer ever, first deer with a bow. I was lucky enough to take it with a bow, so that made it even better. Some of the equipment that I had during that time was I had a one-piece coverall, a Walls one-piece coverall camo, Realtree hardwoods. That's what I wore. No scent lock, no nothing like that. I don't even think I had a hat on. My bow was a PSE Nova, 50-pound Nova. Cam's about like this. I mean, old school stuff. It was my first bow, so that was cool too, to take my first deer with my first bow. I can't remember if I was shooting carbon arrows or aluminum at the time. I want to say they were carbon, but I don't remember because I shot aluminum arrows for a little bit when I was real young, you know, between 10 and 12, just shooting out in the yard and stuff like that. But I had NAP Razorback broadheads. They had a big 2-blade, and then they had 2 little bleeder blades off to the side. Those were a spinning head that actually spun on the shaft independently from the arrow. So it was supposed to have better penetration, find the easiest route through the deer. And it did. It blew right through him. Other than that, it was pretty much it. I had my bow and my coveralls, and like I said, no grunt call, no nothing like that. I called him in with my mouth. And so it was a really cool experience, my first deer. I'm going to take you over to the whiteboard now and show you the setup of where I was hunting. A lot of my first deer that I'm going to show you guys in these videos came from this spot. This is behind our old house, and I had permission from the farmer to hunt the field, as well as the woods behind where my stand was. And I killed a lot of deer out of that stand. So I'm going to take you over here to the whiteboard and show you what my setup was. Okay guys, now here's what the setup looked like. Like I said, it was a beautiful fall day. It was crisp. It was getting cool as the sun went down. And north is this way. My tree stand was right here. The house was up here. This over here was all woods. All back here was all woods up behind the field. And what I did is I walked down this 2-track over to my stand. This is that little ditch right between the 2-track and the field. And this deer come out of these woods here. I'm guessing they were bedding back in here. This was other private property, so I'd never been in there. But it was real thick, low woods. I mean, it was always flooded in the spring. And so I think they were bedding back in here somewhere. They always came from, you know, the south in some general direction. But he come out, this field was about 300 yards wide all the way across. And he come out about 100 yards from me. So he come out of the woods somewhere in here. And what he did, he got out in here probably 20 yards into the field, and he just stood there and he was eating on the beans. And like I said, he was all by himself. That's when I started grunting at him. And he kind of just hooked over. He kind of went back towards the tree line. And this is kind of a inaccurate drawing. This corner here actually curved like this. Oh, if I can get it to right. Actually curved like that. And he kind of went back up to that tree line and kind of skirted that edge, wrapped around this corner, and then he got right over here to the edge and on the edge of that ditch and stood there looking around. And this was about, like I said, about 15 yards. It's not a real to scale drawing, but this is only about 15 yards from my stand to the other side of this ditch. And that's where he stood. And then he turned and I took the shot. But looking back, I mean, I got real lucky. A lot of the deer, these were all pretty open woods. I don't know about back here, but this was pretty open. I almost never had deer come from this way. There was train tracks over here. Once in a great while, I'd hear them coming when I got out of my stand, right after dark, and I'd spook them walking back up to the house. But this open woods here, they'd never come through there during shooting hours. I'd always see them come out of here. So, and this was a lot thicker. This 2-track went way back out, and I had permission to hunt back here, so I could see over into there, 80 yards or whatever it was, and it was real thick. So I'm assuming that they were all bedding back up in here. So I guess the point that I'm trying to make is I shouldn't even have been hunting there. I should have been back here, off away from the field. Like I said, young, learning, didn't know what I was doing yet, but it worked for this deer. So if I were to do it again and do it differently, I would hunt back in here, up further, back in the woods, and try to catch them coming out to this field. And that's something for you guys to remember, is get away from these open areas here. in these open woods like this, get back in the thicker stuff. You might not see as many deer. That was the other thing that I loved doing, was sitting in this stand and watching this field fill with deer, because you could pretty much see deer every night. You never go home skunked. And this was a big permanent stand. This stand was actually probably, it had to have been all of 4 foot wide by 5 feet long. And my dad built it for me, built it out of treated 2x6s and actually put deck boards up on the top of it. It was a giant stand. I had railing around it. At one time I had a little roof built over it. So that was kind of my home stand when I was a young kid. And that's where I was cutting my teeth, learning how to do everything when it came to deer hunting. But like I said, if I had to do it again, I'd get back away from this field, get back in that thicker stuff. And honestly, this time I just got lucky. I had killed quite a few other deer, lots of does I killed out in this field, coming out into this field eating. But I only saw one real nice buck, and it was a real big 10-point, and it was right in the middle of the rut. This is actually, I didn't draw it in, but there was actually like a little swale right here of weeds and just small saplings and stuff that the farmer didn't mess with. It was kind of a low area, it was wet. The only time I ever saw a nice buck, that 10-point, had come off from this side of the field. There was woods over here as well. He chased a doe all the way across this field in the morning. I watched him go in here. They didn't come out the backside because I could see out into these woods. This is kind of a side story just to explain why I wouldn't hunt here. But that buck and that doe went in here, and I eventually went and got my brother, came back, tried to push. He come out here like this and tried to push that deer out of there. The doe actually took off like this. The buck followed her. I was over in here waiting for him to come this way. Didn't work out. But the main point is, overall, I only saw one nice buck in this field during daylight, and I would get back away from this opening, or this open woods and this open field, get off of that field edge. So, but it worked out for that 7-point, my first deer. It was a great experience. Never forget it. So guys, that's the story of my first deer, my scrub buck 7-point that I killed with basic stuff. Some other key takeaways from this story would be that I didn't use scent control. I don't remember what direction the wind was blowing. It was generally out of the west, northwest, so it was probably hitting me like this, and he was over here in the field. So I'm guessing he didn't smell me, didn't have a chance to, but had basic stuff, just my coveralls, just my 50-pound PSE Nova, and basic stuff that I had gotten for Christmas and stuff like that. I didn't have any money at the time, just a kid. But basically the moral of that is that you don't need fancy, expensive stuff just to go out and kill a deer. It worked perfectly on this deer, even grunting him in with my mouth. And so you guys can do the same thing. So I really hope this story, as well as all the stories that are to come about the rest of the deer that I've killed and the rest of the deer that I've got in the album that I started keeping pictures of, I really hope that these stories inspire you guys to get your own album and start your own hunting book and keep those memories alive. You don't have to search through a cloud and remember passwords and search through a bunch of hundreds of pictures just to try to show your buddies your deer. Just grab that album out, show them. It's a cool thing. It's something physical, something that you can touch, and it's something that you can hand down to your kids and maybe tell them all the stories from it and have them pass on your memories and traditions. Keep our hunting traditions alive. On all these deer, I have dates on the back of the skull caps on all of them, as well as dates on the back of the pictures in the hunting album. Guys, I really hope you enjoyed that deer hunting story. I hope it inspires you to start your own hunting album so you can share all your hunting adventures with your family and friends. Make sure you get down in that description below, check out those albums, pick one up, get it started now so that your kids and grandkids can enjoy it. Make sure you like and subscribe for the next deer hunting stories that are coming. And as always, thank you guys for being here, and we'll see you all in the next video.